Hello and welcome to today's live stream, Ask Barn2 Anything. I'm Katie Keith.
And I'm Sam, and I do all of the YouTube video content for Barn2. And Katie is the CEO. So we're here to answer your questions, specifically for people who are in the kind of pre-buying phase for our plugins. But if you are already a customer, we really like to welcome your questions here as well. So yeah, we've got quite a few questions come in already, but we always welcome your live input and questions in the comments. So wherever you're watching from today, whether it's YouTube, Twitter, or somewhere else, you can leave your comments on the live stream and we should be able to see them and pop them up on screen and answer them live.
Yeah, so we'll start off with a bit of company news. So plugin wise, we're working hard on 3 plugins in particular to add features to, which is our WooCommerce product options plugin, where we're adding lots of stuff. We're going to do a big 2.0 release soon, which will have lots of things like more advanced conditional logic and price formulas and lots of things like that that people are asking for. Adding quite a few features to Document Library Pro as well, and also a long-awaited table builder for WooCommerce product table. We're also hiring at the moment. We're looking for a quality assurance engineer. This is a new role that we're creating to test our plugins. We already do lots of testing, but that's shared out amongst the existing team members, and we don't have a dedicated tester. So we're creating this role to make it all more robust. So we're looking for somebody with experience of professional software testing, ideally, who can help us improve in that area and introduce new things. So if you know anybody, please spread the word. And finally, we're preparing for WordCamp Europe in Torino, Italy, where we're not sponsoring this year like we did last year, but I will be doing a talk, which is very scary, about how to build a WordPress product company. And if you are going to WordCamp Europe, then feel free to reach out to us beforehand, and we'd be happy to arrange meetings or anything like that and meet you in person.
Excellent.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I always look forward to the WordCamp events, and this one is in Italy, which is probably one of my favorite places to visit in Europe as well. So double score there.
So first of all, what questions have we got? There's one question that we want more information about. So Claire has asked about possible integrations with ACF, which is Advanced Custom Fields. I need to know what plugin you're talking about, Claire, because we integrate quite a few of our plugins with Advanced Custom Fields already. So please add a comment and we'll be happy to answer. But now on to Document Library Pro.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to share the screen. So this is it's the homepage for our Document Library Pro plugin. And I just wanted to show you that on this page here, you can click View Demo and you can create your own admin demo custom for yourself. And you can play around with the plugin there. Or you can just view the front end demo, which is what I will be showing you now. So Document Library Pro, it's a great plugin for managing, organizing, storing, and displaying documents on your website. And now this is the table layout. This is the first option that you have available. And you can see it comes with drop downs for category, tags, and as well as custom options as well, and a search bar. You can also download multiple documents by using the checkboxes or the download buttons here. And you can see it supports other types of media like MP3, video, and basically any kind of file that you can upload to WordPress can become a document. Now, with the folder view, you can still have the table enabled, or you can use this grid view as well. So the grid view is kind of alternative to the table, but for both of them, you can use these folders. So this folder structure kind of resembles the folder structure on your computer, and it's a nice way to navigate around the plugin. And finally, you can use this grid option with icons as well, which is similar to this one, but this one uses images. All right. So we have a question about Document Library Pro.
Yep. So we've got a question from Kyle to start with, and then a related question from someone else after that, which is great. So Kyle asked, can password protected categories be used for individual counsellors who would each have their own separate library? So when you buy Document Library Pro, you can either get it on its own and create public document libraries like Sam showed you a minute ago, or you can buy it as a 2 plugin bundle with our other plugin, password protected categories. And you need the 2 plugin bundle if you want to make any or all of your documents private or restrict access to them in some way. And one popular use case for that is giving different people access to different documents. And in Kyle's case, they've got documents for counsellors, but they're not like general documents. They are individual to that counsellor, like, I don't know, registration or something like that, or whatever. So they want to be able to go to the website, log into their user account and see the documents which are assigned to them and not see anybody else's documents. So for that, you need the 2 plugin bundle with password protected categories. And what you need to do is create a restricted category for each counsellor or client or user or whatever your use case is. So I'll show you that on my screen now.
Just to clarify for everyone, if you go to the Document Library Pro page where you can purchase the plugin, the bundle is already there. You don't have to find both plugins and bundle them yourself.
Yeah, there's like 2 columns, buy it on its own or buy the 2. So here I created a little test towards the top of the page. So this is the WordPress admin, and this document section on the left is added by Document Library Pro. So it has categories, and in your public document library, if you even have one, you can add whatever. We've got marketing, policies, various subcategories, etc. But for Kyle, I recommend creating maybe a top level category, although you don't actually have to if that's all you're using categories for. And here I've created 2 categories called Katie and Sam, and I'm going to create a Kyle category here as well to show you how it works. So you're adding categories just like you normally would in WordPress. But then here on the left, you've got a visibility section, which is added by the Password Protected Categories plugin. And it's normally set to public, but you can select protected instead and then choose from 3 options. And the first and the third option are the ones I would recommend for restricting access to individual clients or counselors or whatever. So password protected means that each counsellor does not have to have their own account on your website. You can just set the password to Kyle or something more secure if you prefer. And so long as that's on the Kyle category, only the person that enters that unique password can access it. So they go to the website, they enter the password Kyle, and whoever they are, if they've got that password, it will give them access to Kyle's document. So that's the least secure option, of course, because potentially people could share the password around. So I'd recommend that where security and confidentiality isn't a big thing. For counsellors, it probably is important. So instead, I'd go for the more secure option, which is users. And here you can select what user on the website you want to be able to access it. Of course, I don't have a Kyle user, so I've selected Katie. But these are, when you start typing, it brings up all your WordPress user accounts on your website. And then you can mean that they can access the category. So you can allow multiple people to access the same category if you want, but nobody else will be able to see it. And for convenience, I'd probably also use the user roles option to allow the administrator to access it, because then you, as the website administrator, can see all of the documents and test them and things. So you can mix and match these options. So you do that to create as many categories as you want, and they'll all appear in your list of categories. And then when you create a document, you assign it to that client's category so that no one else can see it. And then finally, the front end of your document library, you don't actually need to do anything special to, which is good. All you need to do is create a normal document library, which has all of the documents listed in it. but each councillor will only be able to see the documents that they have access to. So it's all the same page, but different people see different documents. And I just have one tip on that, which is really important, which is that there's a caching option on the Document Library Pro settings page, and you must not enable that because you don't want councillors to see a cached version from when somebody else viewed it, because that's what caching does. It remembers it. So when you have unique user-specific content, you should not enable the caching option. So that's Kyle's question. And let's move on to Michael's now.
So Michael asks, is it possible for an admin of the website to batch import documents that get allocated to each of the relevant client libraries? Now, this is remarkably similar to our last scenario, but in this case, we're just discussing the importing side. So we'll assume that you would like to import your documents using a CSV file, which is something that Document Library Pro supports. So you can do a mass import of documents all at once. And within that CSV file, it's just like an Excel spreadsheet, you would just need a column for your document categories. And then for each of those files within the spreadsheet, you'll assign the category based on who you want it to be, assigned to. And that way, when you import all of those documents, they'll already be pre-assigned to those categories. And if you've set them up with the password protection like before, for example, the Sam category, the Kyle category, those new documents will be added into that category automatically, and the protections will be already applied as you set them up before. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and we'll just put a documentation link up. So if you go to this page in the Document Library Pro knowledge base, then you can download a sample CSV, which tells you exactly how to format your categories. So that should make it easy for you when you bulk import them.
And I'll just play the role of the viewer here for a second, Katie. What's the best way to get people to actually log into your website for the first time and continuously? You have a little bit of setup to do for that, right?
Yeah, so it depends on whether it's a password that you're password protecting the categories so that people don't need a user account, or whether you are just using the WordPress user account. So if it's password protection, then the password protected categories plugin contains a short code, which is, it's in the documentation, but it's square brackets category underscore login. And you can put that anywhere on your site, and that will take people to the relevant category. So if they entered the Kyle password, the password for the Kyle category, it will show them documents for Kyle and so on. Whereas if you're using the user protection where they do need user accounts, then we haven't included that in the plugin because you're using the WordPress login, which is a feature of WordPress. So you can use anything that WordPress or your theme provides to allow people to log into their user accounts. If your theme doesn't have a front-end login form already, then I would recommend installing a plugin such as Profile Builder or Theme My Login to add a front-end login form, because you can do it using the WordPress login, which is /wp-login, but that's not very professional because people see the WordPress branding rather than your website. So you should have a front-end login form, but you can use anything for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. Okay, that makes sense. There was another question from Scott.
Yeah, so Scott wants to know, is the Document Library plugin 508 compliant? Well, we make sure that all our plugins meet. So firstly, Section 508 is a US federal accessibility standard that government agencies and contractors have to adhere to in the US. And we make sure all our plugins meet the WC3 standards, but we don't test for more localized accessibility legislation like Section 508 because it's local and it wouldn't be realistic for us to do tests to every slightly different accessibility standard around the world. So we go for WC3, which is the kind of international web standard. So I'd suggest setting it up and and with not just our plugin, but the whole website with the theme and the plugins. And because part of accessibility is how they all fit together. So you should test the complete package, really. It's not always, is that one plugin accessible? It's like, is it accessible in that context and all the color contrast and everything else? There's a lot of different factors. So get the whole website together and then test it. And if there's issues, then I'd recommend working with a specialist accessibility company such as Equalize Digital, who can help you with that. And all of our plugins are extensible for developers, so that if there was an issue, you could either report it to us and see if we can realistically fix it our end, or if not, then you can hook into it using the hooks and filters that are built into the plugin. So we can't guarantee the 508 compliance, but hopefully it will be anyway because of the W3C, C3, I keep saying that wrong. And if not, there's things you can do.
Mhm. Yeah, in general, it's a good thing to have accessibility front of your mind, because when you design something that's accessible for, well, for basically people who don't see things the way you see them, then you're actually increasing the total size of your audience that's going to be able to benefit from that. And so it's not just people who need those accessibility things; it's everyone who benefits when you design in that way.
It's also the law, and many
Mhm.
countries are becoming very strict about that. And I think somewhere in the US has recently introduced prison sentences for as a last resort for people that refuse to comply after multiple warnings. And I don't know how often that will be used, but the world is becoming more serious about accessibility. And this is a bit off topic from our plugins, but that doesn't matter. But I would recommend the accessibility checker plugin by Equalize Digital, which does have a free version to test your website for accessibility, and all the websites you're building for clients if you're a web developer as well. And that's really important these days.
Awesome. Hi,
Right, we
Stephen.
have our first comment. So that's great. We have currently 64 people watching live, which is incredible. And this is the first live comment, because the other questions we've been doing were pre-submitted. So everybody feel free to ask your questions, whether you're watching on Twitter or YouTube or whatever, and we're happy to answer them live. So hi, Stephen.
Awesome. Let's move on to the next plugin. I'm switching to sharing the screen for WooCommerce product options. I'm just going to our homepage one more time, the plugins homepage one more time, just to show you that when you click on View Demo, you can view the front end demo, which I'll show you in 1 second. But you can also create an admin demo. So this is one of our plugins that we've added this feature for. And this plugin in particular, it's great to run through all of the different options and see how you like them. So I will show you how it looks on our front end demo. This is an example product for a custom built computer. And so you can see the base price is $1,000. But as soon as I start going through some of these options, you will be able to kind of update the price. So this one here has an updated price of plus $40. I can add more RAM for $80. I can choose what kind of storage. Blu-ray drive, yes. And as I go down here, you can see I've got different options for lighting. I can choose different colors. This is our color swatches. I can choose different speakers with radio buttons. And these are text buttons, so you can see what it's going to cost you for each of these different options. And you can choose, for example, a 5-year warranty. And now you can see with the home installation, it's up to $1,800. So we started with 1,000 and now it's up to 1,800 with all the customizations. And this is just some of the ways that this plugin can offer customizations for different items. I'm actually going to show the birthday cake as well because I like this one. So we have a question about this plugin from John, right?
Yep, I think I've just deleted the caption by mistake, so I will add it back.
Thanks.
Right, here we go. Sorry about that.
So John wrote, please, may I know which of your tools have products variant swatches solutions for trousers with variants like length, waist, color, material, and so on. Well, this is the plugin that does variations, but it's a little bit different than that because variations is a core feature in WooCommerce. But in order to create all those variations, you have to create attributes, and then you have to combine those attributes to create the variations. And then you have to modify those variations one by one. What our plugin does is a slightly different approach. We create option types, and we populate those option types with different settings. So, for example, the option type is icing color or color, and these are color swatches where you can choose, kind of like radio buttons, the different color that you want. And here, these are image buttons. So, the option type is an image button, and we've got these different options set up. So, and they can also come with additional prices for each of these as well. So it's a little bit easier to charge extra. For example, if you're selling trousers, your extra large size trousers might be more expensive than your smallest trousers. So you can just add that markup on the option type rather than adding it on the variation level. Um, what are some other things you would need? So length, like size, oh, and
Like
materials.
checkboxes or something.
Yeah. So these image buttons would be great for materials. So you could show what the actual patterns and materials would look like in these different buttons. Checkboxes or radio buttons for different things like the size. Because I suppose you wouldn't want to check two sizes, so you probably want radio buttons. And if you have some kind of embroidery or something you want to add, you can actually write the text. The customer can write the text and send that into you to be added to the product in the finished product. So yeah, that's how that works. I think it'd be nice to actually show the back end, but I don't have that tab open. Katie, do you have a second to show how the
I
options
can
type
do.
work? Okay,
Right.
I'll stop screen sharing now.
Right. So I will share mine. Product options. So the product options in the back end is product options. And like Document Library Pro, WooCommerce Product Options has admin demos, so that if you go to the demo site on our website, you can either just do the front end demo that Sam showed you a minute ago, or you can create your own back end demo just to have a play around and see. And you basically get something very much like what I've got here, so that you can experiment. So what you were on cake, weren't you, Sam?
Yeah, it was there. You just had it.
There we go. So I'm going to open up the cake product. So we've got lots, you can choose what products to show your options on. So this is just demo site, so we just chose specific cake products to put on. But you can have them like per category or globally, depending on what you do. So you don't have to do the same work lots of times. And here we've got various options. So I'll add a new one to show you what you can do. So we've got checkboxes, radio buttons, drop downs, text inputs and paragraphs. You've got number fields, file uploads, the images that we've seen, and the color swatches. Text labels are quite cool for sizes. If you haven't got like loads of sizes, maybe you've got less than about 7, then a text label looks a bit like a tag cloud, but everything's the same size, and people can click on the word large or small or something. So it's a relatively visual way of choosing a size compared to a drop down or something, which is a bit more boring. You can allow the customer to enter the price, which you might do if you're accepting tips or charity donations or something. There's date fields, custom price formulas where you can make the price work however you want. And you can also display products from elsewhere in your store as if they were options on that product. So it's a good way to cross-sell and encourage people to buy more. And then for each option, you've got various things like you can set it as required. You can add lots of choices for your checkboxes or something, and you can also use things like minimum and maximum quantities, and conditional logic to show and hide things dynamically based on the user's selection. So there's quite a lot that you can do with it. So let's move.
And there's quite a lot of videos on our YouTube channel which explain this exact process of how to set these sort of items up. including that birthday cake. I even made a video where I built that cake from, well, not the cake, but I built the page for the cake from scratch using the plugin.
Yeah. And so let's move on to the next question, which is from Kimberly.
Okay.
I made Mother's Day gifts with 3 variations of wood on top, 3 on the bottom, and 3 finishes each, plus fields for engraving and upsell. So she's using a lot of the option types that we just looked at, all on the same product. But now she says, I've got issues with my checkout page looking long and messy. So on the checkout, WooCommerce product options has your products. It has a table of all the products, as you probably know from WooCommerce, and each one has its own row in the table. So you have the name of the product, and then it lists the options underneath. And so what Kimberly's saying is that because there's so many options, it's taking up quite a lot of space on the checkout, which might mean that the customer has to scroll down or something like that to access the payment options or that kind of thing. So at the moment, there isn't an option in WooCommerce product options to change that, but you could do it with some fairly simple custom CSS code, which just hides them from the checkout page. And if you don't know how to do that, Kimberly, then you're welcome to contact our support via the support center on our website and ask them to provide a code snippet that will hide the product options that are selected from the checkout page. And while you're doing that, you could also hide it from other places like the order confirmation email if you wanted to hide it from there and things like that. So it's all relatively simple, but does require a bit of custom coding.
Oh, awesome. Katie, did you see Sarah got back to you about the first question?
Oh, yeah. And that was on product options. So I'll show both of her questions. So she says, I'm curious if WooCommerce product options integrates with pods. So pods is a really good free plugin for creating custom post types and custom fields and custom taxonomies. So in a WooCommerce context, you can use it to add extra custom fields and taxonomies to your products. And they don't talk. And then actually, before I answer, I then added in the chat a minute ago, I asked her, how does she want it to integrate with pods? Because I wasn't clear on that. And then her reply was, I don't have a specific idea for integration. I was just asking because you mentioned advanced custom fields integration, but I use pods for custom fields. So if we're talking about WooCommerce product options, it doesn't integrate with either because the options you create in our plugin are just added in our plugin, as we saw a minute ago. So custom fields and taxonomies are for displaying static data about products. So for example, you might want to create a brand taxonomy in the pods or advanced custom fields plugin, which yes, does support taxonomies now, just checking. So you could create a brand taxonomy, which is kind of like categories, but separate, and allow customers to filter by brand, for example. But that's nothing to do with the product option. It works just fine alongside it, but they don't talk to each other at all. And if you created a custom field to display a reference number or something unique on the product page, then that wouldn't talk to your product options because the product options are about the customer making choices, not reading read-only information from custom fields and taxonomies. And I think that answers the question because she says gotcha. So that is great. And before we move on to the next plugin, let's go through some other questions then. Oh, she's got another question. So let's move on to that first. I'm curious if product options can create a table that allows for variable pricing, say based on square inches, length plus times width for custom sized artwork. And could that same calculation then also be applied to an added field such as a frame option? So I need to get my head around that.
I have an answer actually.
Okay, go for it.
I'm not sure about the table layout. That may require something else entirely, but it does have a custom pricing formula field. So if you want your customers to input specific amounts, for example, length times width, then you can create this formula. Will take the numbers that your customers have written in and basically spit out the price for you. So you don't really need a table layout for that. You may need some like for example, if you only provide specific lengths and specific widths, like 100 millimeters, 200 millimeters, you might need to do some. Uh, I'm not quite sure exactly, but you could probably create some checkboxes or something like that, and then you could still use the pricing formula to create the price from there.
That's coming in 2.0.
Ah,
Currently,
okay.
the price formula works just with number fields, but we are
Uh-huh.
doing exactly what you described
But
in
you could
version
create
2.0.
conditions for the input field where they could only input a minimum or a maximum. So you could still work within that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
Depends on how
maximum
customizable
number.
you want it to be. But yeah, it is possible to use what WooCommerce product options to uh, customize the price based on length times width or something like that. And that there is a video about that, actually two videos about that on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with the table, it might be more a back end thing. Like that's how Sarah would enter the pricing in the back end.
Mm,
And I think that's called a lookup table, which we don't have in WooCommerce product options because you can basically do all the same stuff with price formulas and conditional logic and things that exist in other ways. So it does have that same flexibility. It's just that you're creating formulas rather than tables, basically. And if you just wanted that to work when the frame is selected. So let's say you've got a add a frame checkbox, then you might only display the number fields and use the conditional logic if that checkbox is ticked or something like that. So you can do a lot of stuff, just be creative.
mhm. Quickly, I wanted to get back to Kimberly about how to get contact. So we have a support center on our website. I think it's just barn2.com/support or support center.
I think it's
Do you have?
support dash center, but if you just go to the homepage, it's in the
Yeah,
top link.
yeah, on the top right. So yeah, you could just use that link and contact our team through that. And also, Kimberly, I think I can save you some time. So you usually have three different attributes with five terms, which makes images a nightmare. And do you have to keep adding images to each variant, normally 60 or more? Is there a way to bulk them all at once? Well, just about there is a way. We are going to introduce the next plugin if you're ready to, Katie.
Yeah, but Kimberly, I just checked the show notes, was asking about product options. So, Kimberly, are you currently using variations, but you're interested in switching to product options?
That's a good
Because there's
question. Yeah.
two possible answers to this. So, if she wants to use product options, it's a non-issue. If she's
Mhm,
going to continue with variations, then we'll show you that next. So it depends which
mhm,
one. So let's say she was going to do it with product options and then we'll move to bulk variations. So with product options, it's different to variations. So she's using product options. So you
mhm.
only add with variations, you have to add every possible combination. So let's say 3 different attributes with 5 options for each. That 5 times 3 is 15. So you have to create 15 things, and that means 15 variations. But if you're using product options, you just have to add the 3 attributes as an option and then images, and there might be 5 images. And you don't have to create 15 of anything. You're just, because the plugin combines them and calculates the total price. So it's not as cumbersome as anything else, like doing it in variations.
Mhm.
But let's cover how you do that in variations as well, because I know a lot of store owners do have that pain point when with their variations, like how do I add images to multiple variations at once? And we'll do a couple of other comments first, shall we? So our Edge from our support team has put a link up for us very kindly. So that's our support center. So you can get in contact for that custom CSS. And what else have I starred? We've got a comment from Faisal, who says, I've been missing one particular feature quite a lot, which is the availability of plugin options to control the color, font size, background, and other essential CSS settings for option headings and labels. Such options would greatly simplify the task of customizing the appearance of product options. Yeah, I think that's fair. With product options, we launched it, was it 18 months ago or something? It's relatively new. And now we know it's doing really well. We're investing more resources in it. And so version 2.0 is coming soon. And then we will continue building it beyond that, which could include styling options and things like that.
So at the moment, it pulls from your theme, basically.
Yeah, the styling comes from your theme, so it will look like the rest of your website, and it inherits heading sizes and things like that where possible, but you can't override that and do your own thing. So it will always look professional and integrated, but you don't get that control unless you do your own CSS. And Faisal also says, I must say this is one of the great plugins I've ever tried. I wish to have it in my earlier freelancing career so I could have the option to make more money. Lol. Definitely. I should have read that one out first, shouldn't I? And Stephen says, thank you for your efforts in developing the web community. And Blake said, how did you transition from web development to selling plugins? And thoughts on one-time purchase versus SaaS model for plugins? Well, you need to listen to the WP Product Talk podcast, which I am co-host of. It's wpproducttalk.com, where every week I or one of my co-hosts talks about things exactly like, should you use a SaaS model for selling your plugins or not? So there's tons of episodes on that. And actually, that's going to form the basis of my talk at WordCamp Europe in June, where we're bringing together all the learnings on building a plugin company and making that into a WordCamp talk. So that's the best place for that. And it's a whole big thing. We've never found a SaaS model very relevant for our plugins, largely because they're mostly WooCommerce, and you can do SaaS with WooCommerce, like the Settery app, for example, is a bulk editor for WooCommerce, and that is SaaS because the bulk editing spreadsheet interface happens on the Settery servers, not in your WordPress admin. So you can do it, but we've never found a valid use case for any of our plugin ideas. But SaaS is a good business model that if it's relevant to your ideas, I'd recommend. And the first part of Blake's question was, how did you transition from web development to selling plugins? And so we started off in web development in about late 2009 and built mostly theme-based websites and custom plugins. So that taught us a lot about the industry and what people want. But we always had this dream, as many people do when because we didn't want to sell our time. We wanted a different business model that was more product-based and that kind of thing. And in 2016, we started selling plugins alongside the client business. And my husband, Andy, took some time out to build our first plugins, which were largely better versions, more fully featured versions of plugins that we developed for clients and things like that. So we used that as an opportunity to get inspiration for plugins. So Post Table Pro, for example, which lists any type of WordPress content in a table, was, I think, our second plugin, and that came from a client site who wanted to list blog posts in a table. So we added lots more features and released it as a plugin with his permission, and that all went really well. And we were able to stop taking on client projects within about 6 months, although we still actually have historical clients. We don't advertise that side of the business at all because we don't take on new clients. We're all in on the plugin side of things, but we do still look after some old clients' websites that we've had since like 2010 or something. One of them actually is that old, and we're still hosting and maintaining his site, and it still works, but that's not the focus at all.
Do you think that was the right decision, all said and done?
Absolutely, yeah. It's much more rewarding, and just you get to help a lot more people because you've got so many customers, and you don't have the same personal relationship as when you build a website for people, but there are still ways to stay in touch, like with these live streams and the feedback emails that we send, which come to me directly. And there are ways to still touch base with people and stay in touch. So I suppose that's the only downside, but overall it was definitely the best decision. So I would recommend it. And we talk about it on wpproducttalk.com. which I don't
Cool.
normally plug on this, but it was relevant there.
Yeah,
Right, so bulk variations.
right on.
Right, so I will share my screen to show you this plugin, and then we've got a question about this.
Mhm.
So WooCommerce bulk variations is about creating, because I'm logged in, it's showing me a private product. I'll go straight to a product. So WooCommerce bulk variations is a way to display lots and lots of variations in one place. It's completely separate from product options, which we just talked about, because that's not variations. That's creating options using our plugin. This is about using normal variations that you get with WooCommerce itself. Normally variations appear in drop-down lists. So without our plugin, this product page would have a drop-down for color and a drop-down for size. And you would have to select a color from one drop-down and then select size from another drop-down, then click add to cart. And then to choose different combinations, you'd have to select a different color from the drop-down, a different size, and add to cart. And keep doing that until you've added everything you want to the cart, which is fine for products where the customer's not likely to be buying lots of variations at once. But if they are, then that is quite time consuming. So we created WooCommerce bulk variations to provide a more order form interface for variation. So here you can see that you can select any of the variations for the product, and then you click add to cart and add them to cart all at once. And I'm going to show you the back end, which is what Sam referred to earlier, because variations can also be a pain to create in the back end. So I'm on the edit product page and I'll go to the variations tab. And here we've got 25 variations. Now, if you created this using our WooCommerce product options plugin, you would only need one. You'd create 5 choices for color and 5 for size, and you wouldn't have to create any combination, any 25 of anything, because you might add a certain price for red and a price for extra small or not, whatever. And based on what the customer chooses, that might affect the price, but you don't have to create a different combination like you do for variants. So here we've got the variations, and you might want to have a red t-shirt for the red ones, and here we've got a green one for the green ones. And luckily, when I set up this demo, I used our plugin to add the images, because that saved a lot of time. I didn't have to go to each one, add an image, and then to the next one. What you do instead, which is added by WooCommerce bulk variations, is use this filter, so you can select, say, red, and then you can select a size or not. If you're just going to do images, like I said, then you would just select the color, and then you would use the bulk actions drop down to set the thumbnail, and that would allow you to set the same image for all of your red variations instead of having to do it 5 times. So it's a much quicker way of editing variations, and you can do that for price and whatever other data, stock, anything really. So that's the front and back end of WooCommerce bulk variations.
Absolutely. Can you put that next question on the screen? Cool. So this is an example of when there are more than 2 variations, attributes, sorry. So the question is there an option to modify the layout of this plugin, WooCommerce Bulk Variations, when there are 3 attributes, or in this case, 4? And Nikos would like to see the third attribute as a separate tab, but due to some reasons that are a little bit more complicated than I can handle, maybe Katie can get into that. It's better to have the additional attributes as drop downs within the bulk variations. So you see these drop downs here, and now I can add them to the cart. So this is 4. So you have color on the top, size on the left, and then the style, standard, sleeveless, luxury, and whether or not you want a logo, yes or no. And then they can add multiple items to the cart using these buttons here. So if you just had 3 attributes, the third attribute would be a drop down. So I would recommend in this case still keeping the color and the size in this kind of formatting and having your third variation like this. And once again, I hope that answers the question. Is there any more notes on that, Katie, need to cover?
Um, just thinking, you probably could do the tab thing, although I don't. It had to be a very specific use case to make customers want to click to multiple tabs instead of having it all in one place, like we can see here. So
Mm.
most themes and page builders come with tabs, so you could add tabs without actually doing it in our plugin. So you'd add tabs to the page, and WooCommerce bulk variations comes with a short code which you can use to insert a bulk variations grid anywhere on your site. Normally people don't use that because they use the option which automatically replaces the variation drop downs with the grid. So most people don't actually touch the short code, but it is there in the plugin. So you enter the short code and the ID of the product whose variations you want to display. And to do what Nikos has said, you would, in one of them, you would have the variations for one product in one tab. And then in another tab, you would have the variations for a different product. It wouldn't make sense really to split out the variations for the same product, and that would just fundamentally go against how WooCommerce works, going through different elements to make up the same product in that sense. But if you had variations for different products, you could put them in tabs in a grid if you wanted to, using the shortcode. And if you reach out to our support, we'd be happy to help you know how to set that up in more detail. But I think if it's the same product, then what Sam's shown is the best option with the drop down.
Yeah. Kimberly wanted to see the back end of this plugin, but just so you know, Kimberly, we showed you how it looks on the product screen, which the plugin adds the filters so you can filter by color or size within your variations. But in general, there's a settings page, of course, but this plugin doesn't really have a rich backend kind of like product options did with a bunch of configurations. The table is created more or less automatically, unless I'm forgetting something.
Yeah, you're just choosing things. Yeah, we could show, I've closed that tab, but yeah,
Yeah.
we could show the other things that I haven't shown to show the
Mhm.
flexibility of the plugin.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I will share that.
So
So
quick,
we're
Katie.
back
Very
to
nice.
the edit product screen. So what I didn't show you was the bulk variations tab, which is where you can choose a bit more information. So the reason I said no one uses a shortcode is because you've got this enable button, which you can also set globally for all your
Mhm,
products.
mhm.
And you can either, if that's unticked, then it just follows your global settings. And so if you wanted to enable the bulk variation grid in the same format for all products that have variations, then you can. Or if you want to do it per product, then you would click this box and these options appear. And you can enable it. Disable purchasing is a way of creating a price matrix. So it hides the quantity boxes and the add to cart buttons, and it just displays the price for each variation, basically. So some sites, for example, bulk order a t-shirt websites, have a price matrix showing the price for each variation at the top, and then lower down the page, or maybe even in a pop-up window, they might have the actual bulk variations grid where you can physically add them to the cart. And some people just want it like it's an extra, so variation drop downs to order, but they like the price matrix for showing all the prices at once. And you can choose which way round it is as well. So I had color going vertically as rows and size going horizontally as columns, and you can reverse that. And you can also choose where the images show vertically or horizontally and whether they show at all. So that's the flexibility of the grid in the back end. I think there's some more stuff. I haven't looked at this for a while, but on the product settings page, don't you just hate this? Sorry, I hate this notice in WooCommerce. It always annoys me because it takes up so much space. But so here we've got the same options, but we've also got some additional ones where you can choose whether or not to display the stock in the grid, which depending on your WooCommerce settings, it might be in stock, out of stock, on back order, or it might be the actual number of items in stock, like 3 in stock or something. And you can also globally set it either for 1 or 2 variation attributes, or for 3 or more. So some people just tick the first box, which means that it will automatically show for all products that have 2 variations, but not for ones that have more attributes. So like size and color, that would apply to. If they had size, color, and logo, then that wouldn't show. And then if you click this box, then size, color, and logo products would show as well. You can hide the prices if all variations have the same price. And again, that's only available globally. So you don't have like $5 shown 25 times, which would be a bit unnecessary. And you just want to show it at the top of the page. And you can show the variation description as well. And there's stuff you can do with the images, like when someone clicks on an image, you can, in the variations grid, you can choose for that to update the main image in the corner of the page as well. There's a lightbox feature, and you can choose what happens for products that only have 1 variation attribute. Like if they just had size but not color, then you can choose the layout of that. So it's pretty flexible.
Awesome. So I think Kimberly's
we just
made up her
clicked
mind.
on that at the same time.
Kimberly's made up her
Yeah.
mind. Sticking to the product options would be best, and we would have to agree, especially with the update, which is scheduled to come out fairly soon.
Yeah, I'd say use their bulk variations if you like the table layout, because product options doesn't do a table layout. It displays the options like checkboxes and images and the stuff we saw earlier. So look at the demos for both and think about what you like the look of.
The table layout did remind me of one feature we have in a plugin we didn't talk about today, which is Discount Manager, where you can create a discount table, but that's separate feature. Obviously, if you want to have discounts for buying in bulk, you could set your first 5 items to the regular price, but the next 10 items to the discounted price, and that would appear in like a table matrix with the discounts applied to show you the updated prices. Anyway, that's just one more option in our plugin, WooCommerce Discount Manager, which maybe we'll talk about on our next call.
Yeah.
On our next live stream.
Yeah, we should try to rotate a bit, shouldn't we?
Yeah. But speaking of next live stream, when is the next one?
The next one is on the Wednesday, the 29th of May at 6 p.m. Central European time or midday Eastern time. And if you go to our website, barn2.com/event, you can already register for it so that you'll receive email reminders and things like that.
We'll be adding all the relevant links and to the documentation, support center, and everything in the description of the YouTube version of this video. So if you go to our YouTube channel, click on the live tab, and you'll see our latest live stream. You can go to the description, and you'll see all those relevant links that we mentioned today.
Yeah. So we've got another question from Kimberly. So let's do that. And if anyone's got any more questions, add them quickly because we've got through all of the pre-submitted ones. So Kimberly says, I know you get asked this a lot, but are we adding live preview to the new product options 2.0 plugin? No, we decided that live preview is such a big project that 2.0 is sort of small and medium wins, like making the price formulas far more flexible and things like that, that are not months and months and months of development time as a standalone feature. So there are so many realistic things we can add to product options that we thought 2.0 is about that. And then after that, we're going to look at the feasibility of the live preview and starting researching that. So not at this stage, unfortunately, but we still hope to do it. And then we've just got a couple of thank yous before we finish.
Thank you, Sarah, for joining us today. And Blake as well. Glad to be able to answer your questions today, guys. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you here, or you can follow us on Twitter, ask us questions there, comment on Katie's 30 posts a day that she makes. Well, I'm not much of a Twitter
well, she's
poster.
committed 3 a.m. Wow.
Oh, wow. Oh, I hope you get some sleep, Kimberly.
Yeah. And Sarah's wishing she'd had document library back in 2016. Had to build the same filterable table layout manually for a company. Yeah, it was surprising it didn't exist because lots of people did need that. So yeah, totally understand. Well, that's great. Thank you everybody so much for watching. We're on 102 live viewers now, which is incredible. So come back next month on the 29th of May, and we look forward to seeing you then.
Awesome, guys. See you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.